Hey there. So I left this comment in a Patreon group that I'm in the other day. And I don't know, I just decided just now that I want to share what I wrote here. Because what I did was I shared about my Mrs. Cottontail. And the reason was because this reader had done a pets reading. So now that I've told you that, I'll start from the beginning. I just said I never vote for the pet reading because I don't have a pet. But since you were offering and I was watching, I picked. Thank you. I would like to share about my Mrs. Cottontail. So now I'd also like to share with you. She was a wild rabbit and she lived under my house. She didn't let me pet her or pick her up, but she enjoyed the seed and veggies I put out for her, and I felt comforted by her presence. On so many occasions, she positioned herself in between my then boyfriend and I as we argued. It was like she was trying to break it up. I mean, she was not friendly, so it became obvious to me what she was doing. Like, she wouldn't normally come around us, but so many times in the yard, just like we're standing, looking at each other, having tense discussions, and she would just get in the middle. Like, she would normally steer clear, so it was like kind of cool. That's just my interjection to hear what I've written, back to what I've written, which I feel like it will be better if I have my glasses on to read. Eventually and finally, the breakup happened, and I found myself alone in a rural house with no transportation to get groceries or anything. It was a rough time. I lost a lot of weight. But I would be sitting on the grass, just praying, meditating, healing, and listening to God. Fasting is a really great help with that. One time, she hopped over and booped my big toe with her nose, and then just ran away. Another time, I was taking some pics of her, and later when I looked at them, I could see there was an orb in the photo. And then in the next photo, she had moved her nose to be exactly on the orb. I was wowed and just knew she was my familiar. Eventually, my landlord had to sell, so I had to move. I was trying to figure out what to do about her. I started putting food on my stairs to lure her into the house. That didn't work. She would just leave whatever was on the top stairs. So then I just told her that I had to move and I was wanting to bring her in the house so she could get used to it. Then she let me pick her up and bring her in my house. I have tears remembering it because it was so amazing. The first time I ever held her. So I put newspaper down on the floor in this spot and told her to only go to the bathroom on the newspaper. She spent the next few hours exploring my house, sniffing everything, and when she pooped, she only went on the newspaper. I was like blown away. It got to be bedtime, and she started to get antsy. She turned her back to me and then kicked her feet a lot. I realized that she wanted to go back outside. So I opened the door and let her. That was when I knew that she was showing me that she was wild and didn't want to live caged. She's just like me. I never would have left her if she didn't show me that way. It was amazing, and I love her so much. And it was the pet reading I didn't even know I wanted. Because I didn't want to leave her. Because I had been, just bonding with her, even though we weren't cuddling or anything. I just knew that she was meant to be there with me. And so I didn't feel right about leaving, but I feel like the fact that she let me communicate with her and she responded specifically to my communications was part of her showing me that it was okay. Because, I said to her that I was moving and that's why I needed to bring her in the house, to get her used to it. And then that's when she let me pick her up. Like, she had never done that before. And yes, I had been trying for years. For years, I would be trying holding food in my hand and shit, and she would never eat out of my hand. Nothing like that. And then when I specifically told her that, that is when she came to me and let me pick her up. I mean, and then she specifically only used the newspaper to go poop on. What are the chances? I mean, most rabbits just go wherever they want. Like, she was specifically showing me that she understood the assignment. And I think that was part of it, because she had to let me know that she understood, right? So that I would understand that when she turned her back to me and was kicking her feet, she was showing me that she was displeased with continuing to be in the house. And that was when I knew it was okay that I could leave her, that she wanted to remain wild. She was just wild, What a beautiful, beautiful soul, I'm so thankful to her, and just I know she was just supporting me at that time in my life. I was otherwise very much alone. I still hadn't done a lot of my shadow work, but I was I was clearing all my upper chakras. So I was ascended and in touch with God. Like, I knew and understood why I'm here on earth. Everything was very clear. And that is what happens when you fast for long periods of time, and get in touch with the earth, right? Because this is where you can get your downloads so nice and clear. And that's when I was doing all my magic kind of stuff and just being directly communicated with, and that was the beginning of it for me. And I have, had my communications with me since that time. But there have been times where it was rough, right? Because sometimes as my psychic ability will open up more, it gets a little bit overwhelming. And in the beginning, it was overwhelming in the way of I don't know, I feel a little paranoid, And then now it's more overwhelming, oh my gosh, I'm taking in a lot of data here. I'm taking in a lot. I can, the layers and layers of energy are all being sensed it's like when you enter a room and there's a lot of stuff in the room. It's how you just kind of have to pick something to focus on and everything else falls to the background. Well, it was more the ability to let things fall to the background became less available to me as my senses, my clairs opened up more. And that's a little bit overwhelming. Now it's all at once you're noticing everything. So it's been taking some adjustment for me to kind of open. And it's been interesting too, because I have to learn this new etiquette, It's okay, well, where I'm sensing to is definitely where some people are definitely, I'm not, it's not useful in an immediate way when I'm dealing one-on-one with a person sometimes. It's nice to have all the data now. And that's specifically because I did all of my shadow work now, right? I took away some of the blinders that I had on, and they were specifically on there for a reason. A lot of it was so that I would focus where I needed to focus to study the relationships that I had going on in my life, because the people that played parts for me in my life were showing me certain energies. So I was reading them, but I was focused on them. And so once I, got all that sorted, then the awareness got bigger again. And then it was oh shit, now I'm taking in all of them all of that kind of energy, and then everything else too. But the nice thing about this, I understand, is that now it's like, oh, I see why, because now I'm putting it all into context of the bigger picture view, right? It's not like studying this thing, like narcissism. It's not like I'm specifically studying people who are narcissistic now. Now I see narcissistic patterns. I understand them very well. I can sense them. I can see them. I can feel them. I understand how they're functioning, why they're functioning, where they come from, how to solve them. I know all that. But now I'm seeing them, I'm being given the opportunity to see them in the context of a bigger picture, and kind of, in a way, seeing things like how they serve, you know? And that was something I came to a long time ago. But this is more like seeing that then was like getting a download from God telling me. So having the knowledge that, oh, it was useful. But this is more like now I'm being shown, see how it's useful. See where it's working, what it's touching off, and, you know? So that's been like interesting and fascinating, but also this adjustment period for like, okay. Or like having to find a different way to organize data in my mind as well. And also at the same time, oddly, just feeling more empty than ever. So it's not like I have to like keep it in my mind to think, to have access to it again. How it works for me is more like I integrate the topic or the understanding that I gain. Sometimes I'll write it down in my journal or record it. Sometimes I'll do like clips for my own self, you know, because just saying it out loud for me helps me integrate it sometimes. And then I just let it go and I detach again and I come back into my balanced state. And I know that when that's relevant to me again, it'll come up. I don't like keep my mind. And this has been quite a rapid adaptation. I kind of want to say it's growth, not adaptation. Well, in a way, I've had to adapt to the level of growth that I'm at. So I could say it that way. But it's been pretty rapid. I've seen that, like, okay, feeling overwhelmed. Okay, I understand that I can come into balance. Okay, now I understand why. After I'm back into balance, I see a bigger picture, and now it's like, oh. So it was just like, I don't know, like 4 days or something where I had to really like, I don't know, relearn to navigate given this place that I'm in now. So, yay. And that's due to some things that I released and in the timely manner, you know, in the manner and the time in which they were meant to be released. But I just wanted to share my remembrance of Mrs. Cottontail. So I haven't had her in my life. Let's see, I moved from that place like 6 years ago or something like that, you know. So I haven't had any pets since. I don't plan on getting any pets because of this freedom that I like, you know. But I do like that I had that experience, you know, because as a person who doesn't want to have pets in her home and stuff, it was kind of perfect that, you know, like I would have sacrificed that for her. But the fact that like that wasn't our soul contract, that wasn't what she was going to expect of me. She was wild for a reason. She was wild because that suited us both. She's having an experience of being a wild rabbit. And she, not only was she like me in the way that she likes to be free and wild, and meaning, you know, not held in by any boxes, meaning don't have expectations of me, don't, you know, tell me how I should be. I'm doing this my way on my time, you know, kind of thing, except for God. I mean, I will serve God. But anyways, another way that she was like me was that she experienced a lot of loss. So she actually lost her husband, and all her babies, just to the wild, to the free, to that free lifestyle that she was living, because they got eaten by something outside. So, I mean, that's really sad, right? But she lived for, years after that. So she's amazing. By herself, She just did it. I mean, I was like supporting her, but not really supporting her. She was wild, but like it was fun for me to give her vegetables and stuff. But when I did move, one thing I did do, it was about to be winter, so I got a bale of hay and I put it under the house. And I also got because it was winter and I knew it would be harder for her to find food, and I didn't want her to have to like travel far if it was going to put her life at risk. I put like a feeder under my house before I moved out. The new owners were probably like, "What the heck? Someone's feeding something under here." But what can I say? Probably some chipmunks or whatever probably help themselves too. But like, I don't know. I just had to do that because it was like a difficult thing for me to decide to do that. But I wouldn't have been able to without her telling me. And it's not the first time. I mean, it's not the last time. It wasn't the first time, and it wasn't the last time that I've had communication with animals. I also had this other experience with a rabbit. Rabbits are kind of my thing. So my niece had a rabbit, and the rabbit was in a fenced-in area. It was an indoor rabbit, but also had an outdoor fenced area. And the rabbit had burrowed under the fence and learned to get free in the recent days to when this happened. There was a couple different occasions, but I'm just going to tell you about the first one where I realized that I could communicate with this rabbit. So the rabbit, the burrow was repaired, and then the cage was used again. But then in that same day, the rabbit had burrowed out again. So me and my sister were going to go somewhere together. My niece was at school while her rabbit was in the cage outside. And my sister noticed that the rabbit was gone out of the cage because she was going to put it in the house before, she left. And we had to kind of go. We had to leave to wherever we were going. And it was kind of like we couldn't leave because now the rabbit was missing. And like my niece, if that rabbit was gone, like that was going to be very upsetting for my niece, because this is her pet that she loves. And so I just kind of like stood there and I was like, her name was Blue. I said, "Blue, if you can hear me, could you please at least come over to the cage and come over in sight so that we know that you're okay and that you're alive?" And I said, my niece is going to be very, very upset if she loses you and she doesn't have you. And so then I stepped back from the cage and or the big fenced-in area, and then there she came out of the wooded area, and she came right over to near the doorway of the fence, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I said, "Thank you." And I said, "And now that I know you can hear me, it would be very helpful if you would go in the cage." And so I opened the door to the cage, and she went in. And I said, "Thank you very much. Amelia's going to be very happy to know that you are safe." And I closed the cage, and then I was like, "I know that you probably got out of the cage so you could eat all this nice fresh green stuff out here, right?" Because she had kind of already eaten the stuff within her fenced area. And so I like pulled up this like greenery from the ground outside of the cage, but I pulled up like a root ball. And I was like, whatever, and then I put it into the cage. I tossed it over. So that was that. We were able to go run our errands, and all was well. And I was there a few days later, maybe even a week later, excuse me, and I went over to Blue's cage to say hi to her. And I was just, saying hi, greeting her and stuff. And she went over to this dried up root ball in her cage and where I had thrown it. And she hit it with her nose. And it was so as to say, yeah, I remember you. Like, hi. And I was just like, oh my God, she's letting me know that she's well aware that we've conversed in the conversation that we last had. And yeah, it was just like, wow, that's so amazing and cool. I love it. So yeah. The other thing that I do is, I've talked about this in an older video, and I haven't had to do this any time recently because it's something that I more had to deal with in the past in the summers, but like flies. If I had a fly in my house, I could just make a stream of energy and ask it to go out, and it would. And bees too. Bees, very easy. I can do wasps, but they're very much more stubborn. But eventually some of them will go. But usually I'll just, instead of using the energy method for a wasp, I will usually just get a glass and a piece of cardboard and just like release them back outside. So insects is something that I also can communicate with. And I realize that some people will like come upon this and it may not be meant for them because it may be way outside of the realm of a possibility for their minds, and that's okay. If it's not meant for you, then don't take it in. If you want to look at it like it's a fairy tale or that I'm crazy, that's on you. But I just wanted to share because I don't know, I like it. I think it's pretty neat. And you don't know that you can't do it if you don't try, right? And I feel like it's a purity vibration that allows me to do it. I'm not wanting to be harmful. I'm very much not forceful in my communications with them. It's like a gentleness that I'm entering their space with, So for telepathy, it's like that. It's like they have to be open to receiving. And rabbits just happen to be open to receiving from me. And it has to do with my energy. And I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just saying, like, I know if I was in a bad mood, pissy or something, which I don't know when that happened last. But I've had moments of just feeling like, ooh, I got to process that through. Let's be present with that. But like nothing that sticks more than 5 seconds. But anyways, if I was in kind of those energies, I don't believe that any of it would work for me. I mean, I haven't tried, but yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's like an energy that may have watched that didn't like me saying that. That doesn't want to believe that about me. That I really let those negative energies flow through with my love and patience and presence. But I do. And I don't do it because I'm perfect or anything like that. I do it because it's smart to do. I do it because it would be dumb for me to waste time in it. It doesn't feel good. I know how to process it through. I'm brave. I can be with an emotion. I have sat with some very dark emotions and I've survived them all so far. So, I mean, to me, it's like, it just makes sense. It's like, you know? And because I trained myself to do that for 10 years, that's why it's so easy. That's why it's so quick. And anyone can do that if you want to do that. But you will never try if you're in denial, if you're trying to project, if you're feeling like it's not even worth an experiment for you, then you'll never know, because then you won't try, right? But it is possible for everybody. Everybody has access to this ability to move energy the way that I describe doing it. And yeah, I do know that it sometimes takes bravery, and I do know that some people are in a vibration where they cannot even hear that without doubting it or looking for the lie in it, and it's okay. It's okay. And if you can hear that it's possible, that's great. Because sometimes just knowing that it's possible is a really important thing for your life. It can be life-changing to just know it's possible. I had an old friend. Let me think of if I can recreate this conversation we were having. But I don't know, maybe I was sharing with him. He was in this like negative, depressive kind of state for a long, long time, he had told me. And I said, well, you know, it is worth looking at and dealing with, because like your thoughts are creating your reality. And he said he didn't believe that. And I said, well, I get that. I understand that. But like, if it is true and you don't believe it, then you'll never know it's true. And you'll always stay in the same predicament you're in. And and he just felt mind fucked in that moment, because he was realizing that, like, if it was true that he had created a prison of his own self by believing it wasn't true, if it was true, you know? So it's like, why, if you are in the space to hear it and you do feel doubtful, why not experiment? Because don't you want to rule it out? Because like, if you don't rule it out and you just say it's not true, then you've blocked yourself into a prison. And I don't know about you, but me and Mrs. Cottontail would not like that for ourselves. But I think that it can be hard for some people to realize it's true in the moment without doing a specific experimentation, like a scientific experiment. Do it that way. Because I feel like some people just looking outside for the feedback in their lives on whether or not it's true, their ego might prevent them from taking responsibility for the creation that they are living, like that they've created this with their thoughts. So it might be in denial or not let it see the patterns of it, you know? But one experiment that you can use, which may be a good experiment for you to try, you know, I don't know, you'll have to decide, is that you think of, think of something that, you know, you don't really care about that much. Just whatever it is. Like, I think someone that I gave this experiment to one time chose a yellow tractor. And then I just said, well, okay, now for the next few days, week, look around. And if you find any yellow tractors, let me know. You know? And they did. And sometimes it could be like a picture on a sign, or one's on the side of the road, or, you know, whatever it is. Or like it's a brand name of something, or, you know, or the words come up in a book. But when you choose the thing, it's something you don't really care about, but you are setting the intention for it to show up in your reality. So the reason why I'm saying to choose something you don't really care about, like a tractor, it's because if you really, really want that thing, if you didn't choose something you really don't really care about, and if you chose for this experiment something you really, really want, and you might think, well, why wouldn't I choose something I really, really want? Because if it's going to show up in my life, why not let it be something I really, really want? Well, here's why. Because a lot of times the things that we really, really want, that we don't already have, It's because there's a resistance in us to it, to having it. Maybe it's a self-worth issue, maybe it's practical things, but not just our own resistance. Sometimes there's a resistance on a soul level. It could be in a subconscious, or it could just be something that would harm you more than you realize, and so you're being protected from it, And maybe you have some work to do. Maybe it's not time yet for it to be, right? So there's a lot of little tangles you see around those things. So that's why I'm not saying to choose one of those things for this experiment. For this experiment, you're just setting the intention. Or it's like, have you ever bought a new car, or a new to you car, and then you'd never really realized that that car was so common on the roads until after you buy that car, and now that car is like everywhere. Maybe even same model, same color. Things like that. It's like you're tuning to a certain frequency. So it's not like, so that's what I mean. Your thoughts that you entertain are tuning your vibration. And when you match up to those things on the outside, you'll see them. You're going to see the things that you vibrate at, is more a better way to say it. You're going to see the things that you vibrate at. So if you have something that you really want and you also have resistance to it, then what you're vibrating is a lack of that thing. Or perhaps you've already noticed not having it for so long that that's the vibration you're in, noticing not having it. Okay. That's all. All right. It's a big thing to digest, too, if you're new at this topic. So you just take it easy, one little thing at a time, just the thing that's in front of you.